Hello and welcome back, developers. My name is Shay, and this is another episode of Shay Develops. This is actually a continuation of our series that I kind of thought would be like 4 parts, and this is like part 7 or something, where we are building a website from scratch. And it's fine that it's taking longer than expected, just for educational purposes. You see stuff that you may not see or don't understand, and we go into kind of in-depth stuff here and just totally bypass and overlook some other things later that if somebody asks a question on it, we can make a more in-depth video on later, or I can come back and talk to at a ending video once this is all finished, built. I'll be like, hey, we can go over and talk about a bit more specific tasks. But as last I left you guys, if you made it all the way through the last video, which awesome if you did, but probably not likely. But anyway, so as I left though, I had an issue with trying to create this load fragments JavaScript function that would load bits of our page that we didn't need, that we only wanted to have one place where it was coming from. So we could only had to have one section of code to edit. So if we wanted to like change the navigation, we change it in one place rather than multiple places across our page, right? So that's what we have here with this var string, and we're gonna have some more of these as well, where we're going to do the footer and some other stuff. But let's keep building. So as of right now, as we left off, this didn't actually work. This header section, it wasn't working, and I was trying to do some like weird remove child, replace child stuff, and it just wasn't working out. But I did some Google research, and yes, super duper easy. Yep. Yeah, basically you set your nav string, and then you find your element that you want, which is right here, which is our nav section. We call it div id nav, and then now this finds that nav, throws in this HTML, and then voila, it works. We have to change a minor thing in CSS because we made this clickable. But now, in order to have navigation across all, excuse me, I'm moving. Now that we have navigation across all this, we can have the same navigation across the page without having to, update the same thing over and over again. All right, so let's go ahead and throw that on all my pages first. Save this load fragments. So FAQ. And then contact. And about. There we go. Now go into my CSS, because I need to make this not underlined, and also black text. Right, so go to your style at CSS, and this is what I nav. Well, really, I want all of my anchor tags to not have an underline, so that's going to be fairly easy. We'll do a text decoration none, and then I'll get rid of the underline part, and then I want that text specifically to be black. A few ways to do this, but I'm going to do a same thing I did here with orange. I'm going to do it with black, and do color black, and then go into our JavaScript file. See, now you can already see where this is going. I need this to now have a class of black, And when we reload this, boom, our text is black. And, oh, there we go. Our text is black. We can go to different, oh, I didn't put it on about, or it's not working on about. Let's go to a console. No errors in our console. All right, let's go to about. Oh, that's right. We don't have our script tags added to our pages. So let's make sure we do that. So we'll go down here, copy our script tag, and we are going to put it on the bottom, right below our footer, that we are also going to be replacing. And I think that should make everything, yeah, work. So we got about, contact, FAQ, all looking good, and go back. Nice, okay. So the next thing, we have this bit of context here that's going across all of our pages. I don't know if it's necessarily something that you may or may not want, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the same thing that I did up there. I'm going to do that for this section and for the footer pretty quickly. It shouldn't take just a couple minutes, hopefully, to set up. Now, if you're running this and you're kind of and you're following along, make sure that you're loading nav. You're loading your fragment functions below where the variable that they need is being stored. So if I was to move this like to right here on line 15, it's fine. But if I was to move it up here to line 1, it would now fail. Just FYI, I guess. Yeah. All right, so set another, so this will be var, we'll go ahead and do the footer first. We call it footer string equals. And then we are going to go to index.html, grab, I'm just going to grab the text inside of it, and we'll just leave the footer tag there. And I could have done this up here with this, but it's fine. The way it is. We'll leave the footer tag there. And then we'll have our footer string just like that. And it'll probably get way more complicated later, but for now, that's it. Because I'll probably add some, excuse me, add some social media icons and links to social media accounts. Why do sometimes I have just a brain for this? Jeez. All right, let's keep moving. And we are going to, under our fragment loaders, we're going to create another function. We're going to call it load footer. You don't need to pass it anything. Later, like we could build this out to where you can pass it arguments like exactly. I want to roll, or I want to have links to these accounts or whatever. You can do all that kind of stuff if you wanted, but it's really not all that necessary. I mean, you can just change it within the footer string. Just pass it a footer string and then boom, load it. All right, so for this, we're going to do var footer equals document dot. I don't want to do get elements by name because I think it's gonna provide me with an array. No, get elements by name. Let's see how this works because we don't have a class or anything set to a div or to our footer. So get elements by name footer. And let's just see what that gives us. Load footer. Refresh that, and it says object node list. Okay, so footer dot for each do a callback function here. I don't know what I'm doing here, perfectly honest. I'm just kind of winging it. There we go. This is, I don't know how this is gonna work. Let's see here. Load, order uncaught, unexpected token, and load fragments on line 28. Enter HTML. It doesn't. Okay. It doesn't like that. Load it again. And that's just not how you do that. All right, so I'm not gonna waste my time with that anymore. Trying to figure it out when really all it takes is footer dot inner HTML equals footer string. Hey, did that work? And it definitely looks like it didn't. So now we know that's not going to work. So the real fast system, just give it a class footer, and then get element by no, not get elements by class, or no, sorry, ID, not a class, ID footer. There we go. So get element by ID. And footer. And now it works. So, don't reinvent the wheel, right? If it works, keep it. Now later on, if you wanted to maybe try and do this a bit more elegantly or something, you could try, different ways, different tactics, stuff like that. But for now, I'm not going to worry about it. We're gonna, keep working on repetition, fundamentals, that kind of stuff. All right. So the next spot, like I said, is this little hero section. That's what we're gonna call it. Function load hero, and then we'll call this bar hero string. And then load her. No, load hero. All right, and then let's go into our index, go out to our hero section. We have a div class hero container. We're just going to call it ID of hero. And actually, Control Z that. Oh. We're going to go back up to hero section. We're going to put in a div with an ID of hero. Not her. Why does it? Jeez, I keep missing the O. All right, of hero. We're going to take this out. And then we're going to put that in our string right here. It's going to be real bad right now at the moment. Actually, I'm just going to use single quotes. That makes more sense because I have a lot of double quotes all throughout my whole string here. So, and then we'll use concatenation to concatenate each line by line to where it's all part of the same string and kind of looks like this whole bit right here, just broken up into different sections. Just makes it a bit more readable. And right now it's going to be a little bit broken for a minute until we get everything, looking like it should. All right, let's try and do what I didn't do up here. There we go, that's better. All right, so single quote, and then a plus sign for that concatenation. Nope, not that. Oh yeah, plus sign again. While development work can get a little tedious sometimes, this is part of it. Having to go in and update this, but at least, like I said, you're only having to do this once now. You said you build it once, and you can put it wherever you want with just a couple lines of code. And that's a really important fundamental thinking habit that you need to get into is how can I reuse code to the best of my ability, so I don't have to continue to keep building out the same things over and over and over again. And that doesn't mean on this kind of small scale here, but also in the large scale. You could easily write, like a function of some sort that builds out a website for you with certain pages and whatever. Like, sure, there's a lot to go into the building of it, but then boom, you write a few keystrokes and you can give it the right title and say I want this many pages made, and sure, a lot of it's going to be like lorem ipsum and just like placeholders text that you're probably going to be working with, but that's fine. So it gives you like a quickly or a very fast way to prototype a site up. All right, here, I think, yeah, that's nice. Okay, so now we got to load the hero string. So we're going to do var hero equals document dot get element by ID. Nope, not by name. Get element by ID. And what was the ID? Hero. That's right, hero. And so do hero dot enter HTML equals, and then we pass it hero string. Boom, and there we go. Now we're working. We do have an extra set of quotation marks right there, which we can just get rid of. And bam, nice. And now we just got to go add that hero string and the footer string to all of our sections here. All right, so we can go to FAQ. Save that, do it on contact. And this really like cleans up your code. There we go. And now we have the same thing across. Oh no, that's right. Wait, why is that? Div ID hero. Make some space right there. Yeah, okay, so it works on our home page. If I go to about, though, it doesn't. We have our div ID of hero. Is that exactly. Yeah, div ID hero. Make some space here on this one too. The order on about, right? And we have our load fragments. Load hero. Cannot set property of inner HTML to null. So if I go on about, cannot set property, and it's on load footer. Oh, we're breaking because of the footer. Okay. Yeah, okay, so then we need to go ahead and fix the footer on all these pages too before we do that. All right, so that'll be easy enough. I'm gonna put up, it's a bit late, but I'll add that to all the pages as I go through. All right, now, okay, now our about works, contact works, and FAQ works. Nice. So we are on a roll here. Let's add a little space. All right, and I think that's all about fragments that I am going to work on. I don't think there's any other real fragments that I feel like need to be worked on. So the next part is I was going to show you guys form. So we'll create another JS file, and this is going to get our form data, and maybe we'll like save it to a file. So that way, at least like we can have some type of output of getting the information, right? Without it at least like saving it to a database later, which you'll have to do with another language, or using a framework like Node.js, which is a JavaScript framework. So it's a pretty strong framework out there. All right, so we'll do a new file, and we're going to call it validate form, because this will be our contact form, right? We could make it maybe send an email. We'll have to take a look into that. As far as I'm not really sure the JavaScript has the functionality for that. It probably does. Like honestly, it probably does. I just don't know it personally. All right, so we'll do validate form.js, and so the first thing we need to do is create a function called validate contact, and this is going to be ran on submit, or on button press. So we'll go back to our contact page, and first this looks terrible. Let's clean this up a little bit. So we want to have a div around each of these sections. So we call it div class contact question. I don't know. I feel like that's a terrible name, but you know what? I don't really care at the moment. All right. We'll do div dot contact question again. And then do div dot submit Okay, and that made it a little bit more tolerable already, but that's still not what we want. I do want a line break here and here. Clean that up, and then on our submit button and our contact questions, both, we need to add some margin on both of those so we can get some spacing. So let's go to our CSS. And like I said, what is this? Contact question. We'll call this contact page. There we go. Contact section. I forgot what I named the thing. All right. Let's get rid of about and FAQ for now because we're in hero background. Load fragments we don't need. Index we don't need. Okay. So save this and we'll contact question. And what we want to do is give each of these a margin of, not auto, so your top and, okay, we want left and right to be 0, and we want top and bottom to be 10 pixels. Did that do it? No, that did actually the exact opposite. So that's fine, it's 10 pixels. Yep, 1px0, that works. And we'll just erase this. Save. More like what I wanted to see there. And let's see here. What's the width on these? Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing the inputs going all the way. No. Let's see here. We could do name and email side by side and then have a big text area down below because we don't have that. We could do make this div.contact question and then have a text area in here. The name will be question ID question. Columns maybe 50. Yeah, I feel like that's about better. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. This will be contact question, and this will be contact information. This will definitely be, we'll do a label for question. What would you like to talk about? And then now we have this contact information page, both right here, where maybe we could change the width on these. You want no, because this is mobile. We don't want to separate them. If this was bigger, sure, but since this is mobile, let's make the inputs just as long, basically 100%, and then we'll work from there. Well, that looks kind of bad. All right. Oh, that looks even worse. So make sure I have a BR right there to keep those separated all the time. Okay, so back to our CSS. So that'll be contact question, and then we'll also have contact information, which we're just going to do the same thing. So that begs to differ, should we? But yes, we are for now because there may be changes later. And then let's up that dirty submit button looking all plain, right? Like nobody likes that. I'm also going to give it ID submit contact just for later, and we'll give it a class of also submit contact. All right. Submit contact. Let's give it a border 1 pixel solid. What was that orange color? It's just orange red, right? All right, let's just orange red. I like it. You can just use names for things. Makes it simpler. And with like CSS, I think they're called CSS preprocessors, LES and SAS. You can actually set variables in your CSS and do that. And we'll probably make a video on that at some point. It's something I'd like to just glance over, get some familiarization with kind of thing. All right, so we have our submit contact. We've done that. Save that. Yeah, it's looking terrible. All right, we'll do background color. Just do white. And padding 10 pixels. And you know what? I don't want to do 2 pixels. Let's do border radius 2 pixels. Maybe 5 pixels. 3 pixels. Yeah, 3 pixels, good. All right, border radius 3 pixels. Yeah, I think that'll be fine for now. We'll do a non-hover, later. This is mobile, so it's good for right now. Like there's no on hover for mobile. So what I wanted to do, oh yeah, that's right. Finish out these inputs, make them go width 100, right? So we'll have our contact, they're just contact information and then input. I can do that with a dot contact information within input with 100%. Oh God. Not what I expected. You know what? Never mind. We'll do a min width 300 pixels. Yeah, I think kind of whole thing falls apart. We need to make that area a bit more responsive because I put 50 columns on it. Maybe that's too much. Maybe 40 columns. So that way it doesn't jack up until like into the 315s, and I don't think anybody's looking at something that small. All right, or well, can't say that, but you kind of hope that's not happening. So we'll do a minimum here of 250. Yeah, you know what? That's fine with me. Now let's actually do something with our form. So whenever our form is submitted, we're saying, enter there, give a little space. We're saying go to submit.js, and we actually called it validate form.js. So we'll actually need to go into JS validate form, get rid of submit method post. So all right, let's make sure that whenever we submit this, we'll spill out an alert saying message submitted, thank you. And then let's see this fail. Boom. Nice. See, I told you because I made a huge mistake. All right. So instead of actually having an action, it's going to have an action of do this on the same page, which is that indicator right there. And on this button, we're going to have these classes and things getting out of control. I'm gonna do this. All right. Next one we're gonna have is going to be on click and or even on press. Can I do on press? I don't know, I'm gonna mess it up anyway. On click equals validate form, validate contact. And then down here in our scripts, we need to make sure that we're loading that script. So in order for us to do JS/validate form, bada bing, bada boom, done. Submit, message submitted, thank you. So there's our sanity check, working awesomely, I might add. Yeah, right. Because you did it, as long as you're, and then it breaks, because then it tries to put a, dang it. Okay, so you know what? So then we're just gonna say it goes to contact.html. Well, because that really shouldn't fix it or break that. But that's interesting that it did. I said I don't usually code and from scratch content. I use Spring Framework. A lot of other people use some other stuff, and they're all really good for the most part. Like, sure, you've got some frameworks that are bad or dying or whatever. You have some frameworks that are amazing and being built on all the time. But they're all over the place in many different languages. So for right now, but this is the fundamentals of most of them, right? Like understanding this kind of stuff, and really the process and the HTTP requests and stuff like that that happens like during this is, you know, more content or more of an educational experience later on than the understanding the code now. So, you know, right now I say, hey, I know how to build this stuff. I know how to connect it. And later on, you may start learning on, okay, how do I, or what's going on during this whole process from start to finish? Like, what is going on within the network itself? And we'll talk about that in another series, not this one. All right, so we've got it submitting properly and telling us that, yay, it did some stuff, and then it's breaking. This page isn't working. That's interesting. We'll do this. All right, and then submit it, yay, and then the page isn't working. Net error. Interesting. Yeah. See, and that's being sent into our info because it's getting a net error. Maybe we just don't have an action. Can we just not have an action? Is that possible? I don't know. Interesting. I don't know. Maybe we can just do a redirect or something to get this to be working, because we are gonna send back some information to this page if we need to, like error messages and stuff like that. But I'm curious why that's exactly working like that. I wish this would seems to go away. There we go. All right, so let's continue. Let's at least start getting our information, like a bit at a time, right? So we know that this alert is working. Let's grab, let's see here. I was just thinking, even after I build this, I still have to do, I wanted to do one more thing with the JavaScript, and it might require a second or another video, but like I said, it's all good. I don't mind making it. It's actually pretty fun, and I'm learning a bit more about the, like I said, developing from scratch experience. All right, so we're gonna do validate contact, which we need to first get our information. So we need var name equals get. Actually, I want to do a Google search. Really, basically, JavaScript get form data. How can you get form data with I don't want jQuery. We could serialize the data, but we don't need to do that for right now. Let's be honest, kind of beyond the scope. Okay, so kind of like I thought. Do a query selector. Or this way. See, this is the way I kind of thought it was gonna. We were just gonna get each individual piece of form data. Don't really worry about serialization. Serialization is just getting it ready to be stored to a database. Right now, we're just pretty much just working on validation. So instead of doing it this kind of convoluted, not necessarily convoluted way, it's actually probably a more proper way if you're going to do it with handing it over to something else that was going to take care of the so I was going to take care of actually putting it on the database. All right, so we'll do this input part, right? So we'll have our var name document get element by, no, not get elements by name, get element by ID. Yeah, like I don't understand why it keeps going to name. All right, so the first ID on our contact was what, name, right? That's easy enough. So it was name, and then we can copy this line, email, and then actual info, or we'll call it statement rather than question, I guess, because it could be just a statement. And what is the ID for that one? ID question. Oh, we called it question. So you know what? We will just call it question, regardless if it's a question or a statement or whatever. And then now I want to alert name, email, question. Let's close that. Awesome. Nice. Oops. Oh, I guess we just got, oh, we need to put a value. Dot value? Not node value. I thought it was just dot value to get the information. What do they say over here? Okay. Yeah, this isn't throwing an error or anything. We don't want node value. It's curious why that's, no, I don't want that. Why that's working exactly like that. All right, let's try this again. actually, just put my name out there, you know, test. This is just a test to tell you about my test. That's so tough. Shay Buckner, test. This is just a test to tell you about my test. So working just like we wanted to, and then breaking just like we didn't want to. Well, that's fine for now. Okay. What would we like to do now that we know that we're getting a value? So with name, the only thing really is we want to check for, are there some crazy characters? And then if there are crazy characters, we want to say, hey, we don't want your crazy characters. Spaces are fine. And then also, we want to make sure that we're converting it to text. It's kind of sanitizing the data. So really we can tell them, hey, you can put whatever you want in here. We don't really care. We're just going to sanitize your data to make it just a string, and then that's it. Like there's like whoop-de-doo, it's not going to do anything. It can't run as a string if you're trying to like manipulate somebody's database with a cross-site attack or something like that. And that's something else we can work on later. I never actually built one of those from scratch, but that would be pretty cool, pretty interesting to work on. I haven't gotten that far. So I can take a sip of drink. All right. So we have our values for our contact, or for our contact information. Now, let's create a CSS style that we can pass to say, hey, your data was bad. Please try again. And basically, like this email is it, and it's already supposed to validate as an email because we're giving it the type of email. So if we said that and we tried to submit, it says please include at in the email address. It's missing that sign. So it's stopping us from actually submitting this form just because of that right there. So, you know, that's totally fine. There's no forms. So, but the JavaScript is still being ran, which is not the best. So we first need to check to make sure ourselves that this is going to be, that this is okay validation, that this is okay input from our users, rather than just relying on the HTML required or type to save you, because that can be changed and the form still be submitted. It can be changed just like I can right click in here and go in to this form section and do it all myself right there. That can, like I said, that can be manipulated by somebody and sent anyway, and boom, there goes your validation. And they can even bypass your JavaScript. This even in itself isn't a foolproof plan. This is just another step in the process that needs to be done to protect, you know, the website itself and have a better experience for the users as well. You know, it's a twofold process. All right, so let's create a class that is going to be called error. So that's contact information, and this will be error, in which we'll give it a order of 1 pixel solid red and a, you do a glow. Let's see here. CSS div glow. Box shadow. That's what I thought. Box shadow. Let's see what we got. X offset, Y offset, blur, size, spread, color. So I don't need any offsets per se. So 0, 0, blur size, I don't know, 20 pixels, spread size 5 pixels. I don't want it to spread very far, and I want it to be red. So this is going to be our error class, and let's just go ahead and give it to an input type. We'll say class error, and then now we're over here. Wow, that is a bit much. Let's turn down that class error box shadow just a lot, right? Let's okay, the shadow. That's fine. It's the 5 pixels that need to be turned down to like -1 pixel. Okay. Yeah, and that's not too bad. That's handleable. All right, so that'll be our error class. What do we make this? 8 pixels, and this was -1 pixels. All right. Now let's go back into here. We'll get rid of this class error, but well, nah, never mind. Let's get rid of it. Okay. And then we also, I never added my spaces in this one. Oh yeah, I was also going to make a fragment for this head section as well, which we can later. But right now I want to continue to finish on with the validate contact. So we have the input. So first I just want to check, hey, is this an empty string? Because I can put required here on these inputs and make it required. But that's something I'm going to do afterwards. I'm going to keep them off for right now to make sure that my JavaScript validation is working and making sure that we're not getting an empty string on any of these. So in order for this to be the if name triple equals empty string, alert name is empty, and then we want to break, and that will quit the function entirely. So I'll save that, hit submit with name being empty and nothing happened. Okay. So we have a few things that we have to keep. We're gonna have to work on. So did we get an alert? Maybe if I just get rid of this break for now. And the reason we're using triple equals is we want to make sure that it's both a string and it's empty. I think that maybe I just use a double equals. Okay. Apparently I have to use a double equals, and it tells me my name is empty, and then breaks the page. Awesome. So what I want to do here is break. So if I have an error, it doesn't need to continue. Wait, is that? Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's not working as I thought it should, as intended, which is a big difference as to what it's actually supposed to be doing compared to what I actually thought it's supposed to be doing. So keep that in mind whenever you're building. All right, so if name is empty, or that's the operator for or. That means within this if statement. So I haven't talked about if statement. If is like, hey, I do have a video on if else statements. It's in Java, which is different than JavaScript, not the same at all. But that's basically the same concept, except for you have truthy and falsy values in JavaScript, where something may not necessarily be true, but because it's of a certain value or whatever, it is true in JavaScript, where that may not necessarily, or that's definitely not the case in Java. Java is this true or is this false? And very like set in stone. Where JavaScript is a bit more, like you can make some mistakes, or not necessarily make some mistakes, but code it in a much more loosely based way, which could potentially cause you problems. You never know. All right, but anyway, that's our or operator. So we need or email equals empty. What am I doing here? Or question. Oh, and I made a mistake here with the single equals right here. That I'm actually saying I want email to be set to that empty string value rather than what it was set up here. So right here, I would be setting it instead. All right, so here we're getting an error. So what we're going to do within our contact page, we're going to have a div dot error message, which you're not going to see now, but if there is, we're going to load it. So the var message equals all values are required. How do we figure out though which one actually is the one that's empty, right? Like we should have, it should be able to figure that out. I'm curious, what's the best way to do that? Well, we'll figure it out once we get our message out that, hey, this is bad. And it's not just div message, I guess. It should be we're going to erase these and use single quotes again, like that. And we're going to do you know what, I'm going to do it out on here first because I can code it a little faster. And then we'll just copy and paste and concatenate it like we did earlier. So do div error message. It'll be just a paragraph. Yeah, why am I even doing this? This is silly. All right. Yeah, it's just a paragraph. And then we'll code the actual CSS for the paragraph, right? All values are required. And then we'll do, we'll need to get the error, not the error itself, but get the DOM where we want to display the message of the error, which was called class error message, and we'll give it an ID of error message as well. So that way we can do document dot get element, there we go, by ID, and then pass the ID of error message, and then we'll do error dot inner HTML equals message. All right, does this work? Yay, it works. Nice. and then it breaks. Let's just actually Google submitting form JavaScript. Because actually later on we're going to do Ajax. The submit method submits the form the same as clicking the submit button. Form object.submit. There for yourself. Yeah, okay. I don't think that's what I wanted to learn. We'll see this old submit. We might actually break up this validate contact into validate name, validate HTML, and validate question, and then it'll send back a message based on the validation of each input rather than as a one as a whole. But for now, like I said, that actually worked out pretty well. So I'm actually pretty happy with that at this point. All right, and we've actually been going on an hour, and this is about my cutoff for a video. And we still have a bit to do, right? We haven't given our class the error message or the error div. Yeah, we haven't given the input the error class that we created in our CSS yet. It's not being saved to a page yet. Like I said, this is just the validated part. We still got quite a bit to go. But I want to do this in another video because I kind of needed to take a break myself, just a short one here, and I feel like my dogs need a little bit of exercise. So, that was a good sentence right there. But until next time, hopefully you guys like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys are working on, any questions, any good stuff like that. Tell your friends about me. They'll probably make fun of you. Hopefully not. But anyway, until then, I'll see you guys later, and I hope you all are staying safe out there and being good developers, practicing that skill. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.